Through this presentation, our aim is to see the different perspectives on how this teaching is interpreted and practiced in everyday life, and ultimately to be able to fully understand the true message of his teaching. Without further ado, let us warmly welcome the two teams, Shanti Prema and Sathya Dharma. Sai Ram, and thank you for the warm welcome. Without further ado, let's start by bringing up Pranav from the Shanti Prema team to talk about the topic, always speak softly and lovingly, in the light of peace and love.
Sai Ram and my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Today, I will be talking about why it's important that regardless of the instance, we always speak with a soft and loving tone. To understand why we will speak with a soft and loving tone all the time, I will be going through two perspectives, both from a scientific and from a spiritual perspective. But first, let's understand what Swami has to say about it. We must look no further than the 7th point of the 9-point code of conduct to understand what Swami says. The 7th point states that we must speak softly and sweetly to everyone. Therefore, it is very important that we, as devotees of Sai, always speak with a soft and sweet tone. Not only this, but when we speak with a soft and sweet tone, we follow the human values of love, right conduct, nonviolence. Now, let's understand why scientifically we should always speak with a soft and loving tone. People who speak softly are often more active listeners, and when we're more active listeners, we improve the quality of discussion greatly. Not only this, but when you speak with a soft tone, it has a calming effect on heated situations. As devotees of Swami, it is very important that we always try to diffuse any possible heated situations and follow the human values. Swami says we cannot always oblige, but we must always speak obligingly. Not only this, but when people speak softly, they're more selective with their words. When we're more selective with our words, we get our points across more effectively, and discussion and discourse becomes much greater. For those fellow devotees who think that may struggle at times to speak with a soft and sweet tone, the acronym THINK will become very useful. We should always think before we speak. Is what I'm saying truthful? Is what I'm saying helpful? Is what I'm saying inspiring? Is what I'm saying necessary? And is what I'm saying kind? Now, I hope that you guys use this acronym throughout your lives so that you may follow Swami's teachings as speaking soft and sweetly all the time. Now, let's understand what Swami has to say. In a discourse in February 1984, Swami said, "The ancients recommended a vow of silence in order to purify speech of its evil. A mind turned inwards towards an inner vision of God, and speech turned towards an outer vision, both will promote spiritual growth and success. You have to practice speaking sweetly and softly, and avoid unnecessary connections and relationships with all and sundry. The easiest spiritual practice is to reflect on God, with love that is expanding and embracing one and all. It is the only way to reach the divine." Swami is telling us that one of the easiest practices to reach the divine is to speak with a soft and sweet tone. A kind word essentially has the same effect as rendering seva, as you're channeling Swami's love through you. We realize that as Swami's devotees, there is a God in each and every one of us. Therefore, it is our duty to respect that God and speak with a soft and sweet tone. Now, I understand that there are many parents in this audience today, and they feel, well, what if I want to discipline my child? Isn't it therefore fitting to use a harsher tone if time and time again they're misbehaving and I must speak with a harsher tone? Well, Swami gives the example of a volunteer leader trying to discipline another volunteer with a harsh tone and saying why this is incorrect, and we as Swami devotees must not take this approach. Swami says in his discourse, "Virtues needed to serve, you will earn my grace much more by such service and sacrifice than by sitting in the front row and nodding to whatever I say. Don't push or pull people. Speak softly and sweetly. I have known many volunteers who reel off the excuse, 'Swami, they won't obey me if I speak softly.' They are used to such harsh treatment. I will never pardon such volunteers. The fault is always in their manner of speaking, the way in which they explain their actions, temper, attitude, and approach." Swami is saying that as his devotees, it is important that we don't speak with a harsh tone, even in instances of disciplining. We should never use violence, and we should also never use a harsh tone when it comes to disciplining. Remember to use the acronym THINK throughout your journey, and ensure to always speak soft and sweetly. Thank you, and Sairam.
Reflectionary thought. Think positive and you'll speak positive. Indeed, it is a wonderful teaching from Swami that helps in making interactions and professional speakings and everyday speakings better. Thank you, Pranav, for sharing the importance and meanings of the topic and sharing with us the benefits. As we heard the perspective of the Shanti Prema team, now let's bring up the Sathya Dharma team and see what Shri has to say.
My humble pranam at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Speaking softly is ideal, but not always sufficient. True communication depends on love, truth, and righteousness. Satya Dharma, and not just tone. Swami never asks us to be passive. He asks us to be loving and truthful. Swami says, speak the truth and speak it pleasantly, but do not speak an unpleasant truth nor a pleasant untruth. This means sometimes truth itself can be firm or unpleasant, but silence or softness that hides the truth is also wrong. Swami himself spoke sternly when guiding devotees, proving that firmness, when spoken with love, can also be divine speech. Speaking softly doesn't mean letting others misuse your goodness. Swami teaches us to remain balanced, but not submissive. Some people mistake gentleness for weakness, and being soft-spoken does not mean accepting injustice. The Gita's message, ahimsa or nonviolence, doesn't mean inaction. It means acting rightly without hatred. In certain roles, firmness is necessary to uphold order and convey seriousness. And being assertive does not mean being rude or violent. Swami says, duty is God and work is worship. And when fulfilling your duty, for example, as a teacher or parent, soft words may not always bring discipline or clarity. A volunteer or teacher might need to speak firmly to prevent harm or ensure safety. And that too can be an expression of love. A surgeon's knife may hurt, but it heals. Likewise, a firm word given with love can also transform someone. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, Shri, for throwing light on a perspective which demands assertiveness in not so ideal situations. One of the challenges that most of us face is speaking softly and lovingly in actions of self-defense. Let's bring up Ethan from the Shanti Prema team to suggest how Swami's teachings can be applied in these situations.
Saima, my humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Let me start by explaining how speaking lovingly and softly can be used during self-defense. Let us say that someone has criticized us. Of course, we will get hurt and become angry and upset. However, when we get angry or upset, do not immediately react and start shooting criticisms at this person. Instead, you should think to yourselves, do we have these defects that this person has pointed out in us? If so, then those defects are within us, and it's not our duty to get mad at that person. However, if those defects are not within us, then why should we get angry at them when what they're saying is not even true? If we give ourselves the opportunity to inquire about this, our anger will subside, and we'll be able to speak softly and lovingly. As devotees of Swami, it is crucial that we understand what Swami would do and how he has relived similar circumstances. We may be quick to judge those who bully us. However, we may likely not understand what is going on in their lives. And therefore, before we use a harsh tone, we should take the morally right decision and speak softly and lovingly. Another example of this can be seen through Krishna. He was able to lift an entire mountain with just one finger, showing his immense strength. However, in order to spread love, Krishna had to use two hands in order to play his flute. What can we get from this? It is a lot easier to show your strength, as Krishna just needed one finger to lift an entire mountain. However, it is a lot harder to spread love, as in order to play the flute, Krishna had to use two hands in order to do so. This can be related to speaking softly and lovingly, because whenever someone criticizes you, it is very easy to use a harsh tone and hurt them even more. However, it is a lot harder to take these words and speak softly and lovingly to them. As Krishna has used two hands in order to put in extra effort to play the flute, similarly, we should also put in an extra effort into speaking lovingly and softly. Swami says that we should never criticize or hurt anyone with our words. He says to see everyone as a form of God, and when we do so, it becomes impossible to hurt someone with our words, even though they try to hurt you with their words. Another way to avoid hurting someone with their words is to always speak less, because when we speak a lot, we have a lot higher chance of hurting someone with our words. However, when we speak less, we drastically decrease that chance of hurting them. An example from my daily experience is my cousin. Whenever someone yells at him, he doesn't listen at all, and he reacts with even more anger. However, when someone speaks to him in a soft and loving tone, he listens very well. And this shows how people feel more inclined to listen to others when they speak to them in a loving and soft tone. Another example in my daily life is whenever I get mad at my brother when he irritates me. Whenever I act angry and start yelling at him, he irritates me even more. However, when I talk to him in a more loving tone and ask him to kindly stop, he immediately stops and we can avoid an entire conflict. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ethan, for highlighting how a thoughtful response is more aligned on the principle of love. Wonderful discussion so far, but let's explore further on understanding the right way of applying Swami's teachings in peculiar situations where it might not be as easy. Let's bring up Mohan from the Sathya Dharma team and listen to what he has to say.
While speaking softly is often the kind and generous thing to do, it may be deceiving sometimes, as sometimes emphasis is needed to get a point across. So let's explore how, with speaking with emphasis and conveying truth, we can be done with Swami's teachings. For example, in a class of second graders, the teacher cannot always speak softly if the class is speaking loud. The teacher must get the attention of the class, so the teachers use emphasis. Another example is if a team of workers are doing a terrible job. Their boss must get them to focus. In this, it is necessary for the boss to remind them of the harsh reality of them losing their job if they're not productive. And you know, Krishna never actually said that speech should always be soft. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita places truth and meaning, truth and duty over mere pleasantness. Meaning, if softness avoids the truth, then firmness becomes necessary. One example of this in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, "Do not yield to unmanliness, O Arjuna. It does not befit you. Abandon this pettiness of heart and arise." In the Gita, Arjuna does not want to fight in the war because he is compassionate for his family. Krishna calls his hesitation unmanliness and tells him to stand up and fight. Krishna models passionate firmness. While his intent is loving, his speech is firm. Also, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also never said that we must always speak softly. In fact, in the Quran, it says, "Gentleness is not anything except that beautifies it, and is not removed from anything that disfigures it." His guidance shows that speech should always match the moral and emotional needs of the situation. In conclusion, speaking softly and gently is not right when it conflicts truth and duty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan, for helping us understand how assertiveness, supported by love, by loving intentions, is necessary in handling difficult situations. As we conclude our discussion, we thank both teams, Shanti Prema and Sathya Dharma, for their thoughtful reflections and sincere efforts in exploring Swami's teachings. Always speak lovingly and softly. Through this discussion, we've seen how speech, when guided by love and humility, becomes a powerful tool for unity, understanding, and transformation. Swami reminds us that our words should be sweet like honey, gentle, healing, and filled with compassion. However, we also understand that it is very important to be honest and convey the truth when we speak, and our speech should be backed up by our actions. As we reflect on today's presentation, let us remember that Swami's guidance, always speak softly and lovingly, is not just a suggestion, but a spiritual discipline. In a world often filled with noise, haste, and harshness, our words can become instruments of peace and healing. Let us ask ourselves, do my words uplift or discourage? Do they reflect love or ego? Swami teaches us that the speech is a mirror of heart. When our hearts are pure, our words are naturally gentle, truthful, and healing. May we strive to make every word a prayer, every sentence a conversation. May we strive to make every word a prayer, every sentence a service, and every conversation a chance to express His love. With gratitude at His lotus feet, we humbly present this presentation to Swami. Jai Sai Ram.